Bill O'Reilly here. Welcome to the No Spin News, Monday, June 17th, 2024. Stand up for your country. Involved in this campaign is a very simple question. Will America evaporate slowly or quickly if one or the other are elected, Trump or Biden? That's what both sides are saying. Okay? So if you vote for Trump, you won't have a country. Quote Donald Trump. If you vote for Biden, you won't have a country. If you vote for Trump, you won't have democracy. That's what it is. So one person is following this is I have said he's a better columnist than I am. I have said that publicly. His name is Victor Davis Hanson. You know him. He's got a new book out called The End of Everything: How Wars Descend into Annihilation. I'm reading the book. I'm in the chapter with the Aztecs. Okay, because I'm a history guy and I like all this stuff. So Professor Hanson, he teaches at Pepperdine, he's at the Hoover Institution, he's a busy guy, but he's taken time out to join us now from Palo Alto, California. So number one about the book, I'm enjoying the book, but you know, this is a hardcore history book. So people should know that. It's not contemporized. But the message certainly is, because a lot of people feel that the USA is in steep decline on a number of fronts. Do you believe that?
I do, and I didn't write the book for that purpose, but once I looked at these examples of Thebes and Carthage, and as you said, the Aztecs at Tenochtitlan, and of course, Constantinople, there were certain themes, Bill, that once powerful states or nations were in decline and yet in denial. They felt that they were as robust as ever, that the enemy wouldn't dare attack them, that there would be allies on the horizon to save them, that even if they were attacked, the nature of their enemies they weren't existential. They didn't want to destroy them. Who would want to do that? And yet, so when I finished, I wrote an epilogue and looked at various places around the world where there are bad actors like that, but more importantly, there are once powerful nations that don't reinvest in what once made them powerful, and yet they're in complete denial about their vulnerability. And I think the United States fits that pretty well.
But I think a lot of the voters are worried. I mean, my mail reflects that. I get thousands of letters. Yeah. And it reflects that if Joe Biden, and I believe this myself, because I ought to be up front when I do my commentary. Yeah. I believe another 4 years of Joe Biden will damage this country almost beyond repair. And I have a book coming out in September called Confronting the Presidents, where we evaluate every president, all 45, and where they help or hurt the country. Joe Biden has hurt the country so dramatically in 3.5 years. He ranks up as the second worst president next to James Buchanan, the guy who totally booted the Civil War. Okay? So another 4 years of a Biden who cannot even function on a day-to-day basis. And if he dies or is incapacitated, Kamala Harris, because they're not going to kick her off the ticket, all right? Then I'm saying to myself, it's over because there are no restraints then. Biden's got some restraints now, which is why he issued the executive order on the border. He'll have none then. And so we'll have every front. It'll be socialism. That's what I think is in play here, socialism. Do you see it the same way?
Yeah, I do. What's new about Biden is that the border was always porous, but it was never non-existent. He's destroyed it as a concept. And we always had high crime spikes, but we never had a period where crime was legitimized as sort of a critical legal theory or critical race theory, that the oppressed had certain rights to take what wasn't theirs, for example. We've never borrowed $1 trillion every 90 days. I mean, if he's to be elected at that rate, we could borrow another 16 trillion. There is limits to that. And when we have all of this natural wealth and energy and food and people, and we're not utilizing it, or we're utilizing it in a destructive way, I'm very worried about the military. 45,000 recruits short. And when you look at the people who are not joining, Bill, they're the very demographic that died at double their numbers in Afghanistan and Iraq in the demographic. So they have done something, and we could get, I don't want to get into it, to alienate white males from the interior or the rural areas of America that traditionally were willing to go to god-awful places to serve their country. And so there's a lot of things going on that are very, very dangerous, and I agree entirely.
And you know this as well as anyone. You saw the parallel with the Roman Empire, that once the Romans could not recruit among Roman citizens and had to hire mercenaries, that was the beginning of the end of the empire. And now we don't have enough people to fill our military roles, whereas China and Russia are accelerating their military presence to a degree probably never before seen in their history. Now, Joe Biden, if you trace his past in the Senate, he was never a left-wing bomb thrower. Now he is. What happened?
Well, I think there was a Faustian bargain made in that 2020 primary race where they had all of these extremists, Buttigieg, Cory Booker, Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, et cetera, and they were all felt to be not competitive against Trump. And so there was an idea that they were all, remember, almost in unison, they dropped out. And the deal was that they knew that Joe Biden was cognitively challenged then, but he had a reputation of old Joe Biden from Scranton, and he would provide the proper veneer. But in exchange in that Faustian bargain, he was to outsource major appointments and even policy directives to the team that had been around Barack Obama. And I think that's what we got. He was supposed to be old Joe Biden from Scranton. And then we've got Susan Rice, the Obamas, Eric Holder, and the foreign policy, Ben Rhodes, and all of those people who I think are directing the policy of the Biden administration. I think the Obamas feel that they were the frontier, they were the path breakers into socialism, and they were restricted because they had to. They were the first people to be that radical, and now they feel a tinge of regret that we could have done so much more had we been more bold. But now Biden is this empty vessel that offers us an opportunity, and that's what they're doing.
All right, that's as good an explanation as I've heard. But remember, under 8 years of Obama, he wasn't a bomb-throwing far-left guy.
No.
He deported more migrants than any other president in history. He didn't open the border. He was weak in foreign policy. There's no question about that. And then his economics, the Obamacare, you can make an argument on both sides, but it wasn't, a punitive time for the American worker. Now it is. Do you believe Biden made that Faustian bargain, as you put it, consciously? Or he's just so far out there, he just doesn't know from day to day what's happening, and he just does as he's instructed to do? Which is it?
I think it's the latter. I think his wife is playing sort of the Edith Wilson role, and that she's got gatekeepers around him, but he was not aware of. I don't think he's aware of at all of what he's saying or doing.
And I think you're right. Jill Biden is a villain, I think. But in Afghanistan, no cognizant president would have done what he did. Barack Obama never would have done that. Never. In a million years would he have abandoned all of those weapons, put Americans and Afghanis who helped the USA at risk, and turned over government to the Taliban. Barack Obama would not have done that.
No, but there
Joe
were people
Biden did.
around. He did. And remember that as we left, we had the pride flag flying from the embassy. We had a gender studies program at the University of Kabul. We had George Floyd murals. So we were culturally imperialistic, but we didn't have the military heft. So that we suffered from both being culturally arrogant and then militarily weak. But no, that was from the people around Joe Biden, and he just signed off onto it. We've got a lot of radical people around him. I do think that Obama was very transparent when he once said, "Do you regret you didn't do things, and would you ever like a third term?" And he famously said, well, if I could just stay in my basement and phone it in without having to do the work, but I could phone in my directives, that would be an ideal third term. I think that was really something that we should have taken seriously, because I think that's where we are now.
Yeah, but if he wants a third term, all he's got to do is put Michelle out there, and Michelle would probably win. Now, on the other side, democracy on the ticket, Trump is a fascist. Everybody's, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is going to be put in a camp. This is cartoonish stuff. But do you think that some of the folks buy it?
I think they will. I think when you look at these conspiracies, theories, or whatever they are, we forget they worked. I mean, Donald Trump lost the popular vote in 2016 as a result probably of collusion. And none of those people were ever prosecuted that hired Christopher Steele, Perkins Code, GPS, DNC. That was illegal to hire a foreign national and then create that dossier. And the laptop people, when Anthony Blinken rounded up those 51 authorities and that empowered Joe Biden in the debate, and I think that had some bearing on the election, none of those people were ever have ever apologized. They've never admitted they lied to the American people. Anthony Blinken suffered no downside. So when I look at these conspiracy theories, they all seem to have had some utility, and it suggests to me that whether you call them October surprises or whatever, we're going to see a lot of them. You mentioned one, and I think there's going to be this narrative that Donald Trump is going to end democracy. He's going to put people in camps.
Right.
They're going to have all sorts of frenzy. I think another one is going to be that actually he's more debilitated than Joe Biden. He slurs his word. People in private meetings say that he's no more. Yeah,
that Trump does too. Trump does too much media. That's not going to.
Yeah.
I'd like to bring you back sometime this summer just to talk about your state, California. Right now, there's a movement in California, as you well know, to block referendums that are on the ballot, okay, on crime and taxes by the far, far left legislature in Sacramento and Governor Newsom. They want to stop the people from voting on crime, safety, and lower taxes. It's an unbelievable story that goes to the totalitarianism of the left, but I don't have time to do it tonight. But will you come back sometime this summer and chat with me about it? Because you know a lot about that.
Absolutely, Bill. I'll be happy to.
Okay. Thank you, Professor. Really, the book is The End of Everything, How Wars Descend into Annihilation. It does have a absolute linkage to what we are going through here today.